I still wake up before the kettle whistles. It's an old habit from when Margaret was alive. She used to say the kettle sounded impatient, like it was scolding us for staying in bed too long. She's been gone 4 years now, but the kettle still complains at 6:12 a.m., sharp and unforgiving, just like it used to be when I forgot to pay the electricity bill on time. The kitchen is quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Stainless steel. Bought it in 2011. On sale. $1,480 after tax. I remember because Margaret insisted we didn't need something that fancy. Now it's just me, the fridge, and the faint clicking noise it makes when the compressor struggles. Like an old man clearing his throat. I pour oatmeal into a chipped blue bowl. No sugar. Doctor's orders. My hands shake a little when I carry it to the table, but not enough for anyone to worry. Not yet. I am 71 years old, widower, retired civil engineer, 38 years designing drainage systems. No one ever notices unless they fail. I suppose that's fitting. The mail is waiting on the counter. I already know what's inside. I always do. Bank statement, property tax reminder, prescription refill notice, and an envelope for my daughter, Claire. Thin. Always thin. She never sends letters anymore, just folded requests. Dad, can you help us cover something real quick? That's how they start now. Not how are you, not are you eating properly, just real quick. I sit down and open the envelope carefully, like it might bite. Inside, a printed screenshot of a credit card balance and a sticky note in Claire's handwriting. Mortgage short this month. $4,200. We'll pay you back next quarter. Promise. Promise. That word used to mean something in this family. I look at the date. March 3rd. It's the third short month this year, and it's only March. I push the papers aside and eat my oatmeal while it's still hot. Margaret hated cold oatmeal. Said it tasted like surrender. The house is quiet because it's my house. Still mine. For now. Claire and her husband Daniel moved in temporarily 18 months ago, right after Daniel's startup collapsed. Or pivoted, as he liked to say. Temporary has a way of stretching when you don't object fast enough. They took the master bedroom. I moved into the guest room because it was closer to the bathroom and, according to Claire, safer for me at night. She said it gently, with that professional concern she practices like a second language. The first few months were polite. Thank yous. Careful steps. Then came the small assumptions. Utilities split for simplicity. Groceries just added together. Streaming subscriptions I don't watch. Insurance adjustments. A new phone for Daniel for work, charged to my card, because his credit was still recovering. I didn't notice the pattern at first. Engineers are good with numbers. But grief makes you careless. It was the jokes that came before the math. You don't really need all that cash sitting there, Dad, Daniel said once, laughing, tapping my checkbook like it was a toy. Money should move. Claire smiled the way she used to smile at teachers when she wanted an extension. He's old school, she said. You know how he is. Old school, as if discipline were a defect. Last Christmas, they gave me a sweater. Gray. One size too big. I gave them a check for $12,000 to help reset their finances. Claire hugged me hard enough to make a show of it. You're saving us, she whispered. In January, Daniel bought a new espresso machine. $3,600. Italian. Chrome. It lives on my kitchen counter now, hissing and steaming like it owns the place. Want a latte, Dad? He asked the first morning. I told him I preferred drip coffee. He looked genuinely confused. By February, the transfers were routine. $2,000 here, $1,500 there. A plane ticket I didn't take. A conference I didn't attend. It all blurred into one long subtraction. I started writing things down again. Dates, amounts, notes in the margins. March 3rd, $4,200 mortgage short. February 17th, $8,750 credit card consolidation. January 29th, $6,300 bridge loan. Total, so far, $67,910. No one asked me if I was comfortable with that number. They just assumed I was. That evening, Claire stood in the doorway of my room while I was folding laundry. My laundry. I still do that myself. Dad, she said, careful. We might need to talk about expectations. I looked up at her, at the woman I paid through college, law school, her first apartment, Her wedding. Yes, I said. We might. She smiled, relieved. Misreading me as usual. We're family, she said, and families support each other. I folded a sock, paired it neatly. Yes, I said again. They do. What she didn't notice was that I had stopped agreeing, and what they didn't expect was that I had kept every receipt. By April, the house had developed a rhythm that wasn't mine. The espresso machine screamed at 6:30. Daniel's laptop chimed every few minutes with notifications that sounded important but never seemed to turn into income. Claire paced during phone calls, barefoot on hardwood. I refinished myself in 2009, whispering about runway and liquidity like they were spiritual concepts. I learned to move quietly, not because I was afraid, but because old houses listen. On April 11th, I drove to the bank. It was a Tuesday, rainy, the kind of gray morning Margaret used to call good for paperwork. I wore my brown jacket with a loose button and carried a folder that had grown thick enough to feel accusatory. Good morning, Mr. Hale, the teller said. Young woman, polite. She spoke to me slowly, the way people do when they notice gray hair before posture. I'd like printed statements, I said. Full transaction history. Last 18 months. She blinked. All accounts. Yes. She asked if I wanted summaries. I told her no. Summaries are for people who still believe explanations. I sat in the plastic chair near the window while the printer worked. Page after page slid out with a mechanical confidence I admired. Numbers don't apologize. They don't soften. They just repeat the truth until someone listens. $19,400. Transferred to Daniel's business account. Labeled consulting expenses. $27,800. Mortgage payments over 7 months. $14,250. Airline tickets. 3 destinations. None with my name on them. $6,960. Insurance premium adjustments. Total by April 11th. $98,410. I stared at the number longer than I should have. Not because it surprised me, but because I needed to feel it land. When I got home, Daniel was in the kitchen arguing with customer support. No, I'm telling you it was approved, he said loudly, glancing at me like I was furniture that might interrupt. That's impossible. Run it again. He hung up and sighed theatrically. Credit card companies being a pain, he said. Hey, Dad, if it declines again, can I just put on yours? I'll sort it out. There it was. Not a request, a contingency plan. I set my folder on the table. The wood creaked under its weight. We need to talk, I said. Claire looked up from her phone immediately. Daniel didn't. About what? She asked. Money. Daniel laughed. A quick exhale. Dismissive. Dad, we're already talking about money all the time. It's stressful. I'm sure it is, I said. Sit down. They exchanged a look. Not worried. Mildly irritated. I opened the folder and slid the first page across the table. Do you recognize this? Claire glanced at it. Yes. That's the mortgage history. Whose mortgage? I asked. She hesitated. Just a fraction. Ours. And who's been paying it? Silence. Then Daniel leaned back in his chair. Look, he said, this is temporary. You know that. Once things stabilize. Things don't stabilize by accident, I said. They stabilize when people stop bleeding other people. Claire's jaw tightened. That's not fair, she said. You offered to help. I offered help, I said. Not adoption. Daniel snorted. Wow, that's dramatic. I turned another page. January 29th, $6,300. Bridge loan. Claire waved her hand. We explained that. No, I said. You named it. Her face flushed. Why are you acting like this? She asked. You're not struggling. You're comfortable. This isn't hurting you. That sentence sat between us, fully formed and finally honest. Is that what you think? I asked. She shrugged. Yes. You're retired. The house is paid off. You don't travel. What else is the money for? Daniel nodded. Exactly. It's just sitting there. I thought of Margaret's handwriting on envelopes, of weekends deferred, of the way she used to say, we're not rich, but we're careful. It's for dignity, I said. It's for not having to ask permission in my own kitchen. Daniel laughed again, louder this time. Dad, come on. Nobody's humiliating you. I closed the folder. I'm going to ask you something once, I said, and I want a straight answer. Claire folded her arms. Are you planning to pay me back? She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at Daniel. He shrugged. Eventually, when things turn around. When? I asked. When they do, he said. You're fixated on timelines. That's very old world. Old world. As if responsibility were an antique. I stood up. My knees protested, but they held. Effective immediately, I said. I'm freezing all discretionary transfers. No more automatic payments. No more share cards. Claire's eyes widened. You can't do that, she said. I can, I replied. And I am. Daniel stood up too. This is punishment, he said. You're trying to control us. No, I said calmly. I'm trying to stop subsidizing contempt. Claire's voice rose. So what, we're just supposed to fail? I picked up my folder. No, I said. You're supposed to be adults. That night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time since 1987. And for the first time in a long while, I slept without apologizing to anyone in my dreams. If you believe older voices still matter, support this channel with a like and a subscription. The silence after that conversation didn't feel empty. It felt staged. Claire stopped speaking to me unless necessary. Daniel spoke louder than before, as if volume could reassert ownership. Doors closed harder. Cabinets too. The espresso machine hissed like it had picked a side. 3 days passed, then 4. On April 18th, a Thursday, I received a call at 9:47 a.m. Unknown number. I let it ring twice. Old habit. Then I answered. Mr. Hale, a man asked. Calm voice. Train calm. The kind that doesn't belong to family. Yes. This is Robert Klein, Senior Loan Officer with North Shore Credit Union. I'm calling regarding a mispayment. I sat down slowly at the kitchen table. Which payment? I asked. There was a pause. Paper shuffling. The April mortgage payment on the Elmwood property. Balance due. $4,200. Late fees begin tomorrow. That's interesting, I said, because I don't own a mortgage on Elmwood. Another pause. Longer this time. Our records show your account as the primary funding source. Yes, I said. They show a lot of things that are about to change. Mr. Klein cleared his throat. Sir, are you authorizing this payment today? No, I said. I'm explicitly not authorizing it. Silence. Then, carefully, understood. I'll note that. When I hung up, my hands were steady. That worried me more than if they'd shaken. Daniel confronted me an hour later. Not privately, not respectfully. In the kitchen. Loud. Performative. You didn't pay it, he said, holding his phone like evidence. You let it bounce. I declined to pay it, I corrected. You embarrassed us, Claire said from the doorway. Her face was pale, eyes bright. The bank called me. Do you know how that sounded? I looked at her. Really looked. The woman who used to cry when she scraped her knee. How did it sound? I asked. Like we're unstable, she snapped. You are, I said. Financially. Morally. Daniel laughed. Sharp and humorless. So this is revenge? No, I said. This is accounting. He stepped closer. Too close. You think you could just pull the plug and walk away, he said. After everything? I tilted my head. Everything what? All the support we gave you, Claire said quickly. Letting you stay here. Helping you. Managing things you can't anymore. There it was. Clean. Unfiltered. I've lived in this house for 22 years, I said. You've lived here 18 months. Daniel scoffed. That doesn't mean anything. It does to the deed, I replied. That stopped him. Claire blinked. What? I checked, I said. Yesterday. Title's still in my name. Sole ownership. Her mouth opened. Closed. Daniel recovered first. He always did. Dad, he said, forcing a smile. Nobody's questioning that. But let's be realistic. You need us. I stood up. No, I said. You need liquidity. That night, Claire hosted a dinner. Didn't ask me. Just announced it. Daniel's partner is coming, she said, from the firm. The firm, I later learned, was a man named Eric Monroe, 42, venture capital. Shoes that cost more than my first car. They talked loudly about markets, about burn rate, about how legacy wealth was inefficient. Eric looked at me once mid-sentence and smiled politely. And you're Claire's father? He asked. I am. Retired? Yes. Must be nice, he said. Living off savings. Daniel laughed Too hard. Dad's very comfortable, he said. Old money mindset, though, hard to modernize. Something inside me clicked into place. Quietly, like a switch. Eric nodded. That generation hoards. No offense. None taken, I said. I grew up during recessions. We remember consequences. He smiled again, thinner this time, after dinner, after the wine, after the assumptions piled up like dirty plates. Claire stood and tapped her glass. We actually wanted to talk about something, she said, eyes flicking toward me. As a family. I didn't move. Daniel took over. Dad, we've been thinking about next steps. For you. The room tightened. You're not getting younger, Claire said softly. And the stress isn't good for you, Daniel finished. So we've looked at options. He slid a folder across the table. Assisted living. 3 brochures. Highlighted. Monthly cost estimates, circled in red. $6,800. $7,400. $9,100. Eric watched with interest. Like this was a pitch. You did this without me, I said. We did it for you, Claire replied. This house is too much. And honestly, you don't really need it. There it was again. Need. And the house. I asked. Daniel shrugged. We'd handle it. Sell it. That would cover a lot. I picked up the folder. Slowly closed it. You plan my exit, I said. Claire's eyes filled. Conveniently. We're just trying to be practical. I stood. You humiliated me, I said quietly. In my own home. Over money you didn't earn. Daniel rolled his eyes. Don't be dramatic. I looked at him. At Eric. At my daughter. This conversation is over, I said. And tomorrow so is your access to my accounts. Claire stood abruptly. You wouldn't dare. I smiled. Just a little. Claire, I said, you've confused generosity with permission. That night, I called my attorney. At 11:03 p.m. He answered on the second ring. And when I told him everything, he said only one thing. Good. It's time. My attorney's office smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. I notice things like that more now. Details. Anchors. When your family starts treating you like a loose end, you learn to hold on to facts. Start from the beginning, Martin said, folding his hands. He had known me for 20 years. Drafted Margaret's will. Reviewed my retirement accounts. He was 64, careful, and allergic to drama. So I didn't give him any. I gave him dates. January 29th, $6,300. February 17th, $8,750. March 3rd, $4,200. April 11th, total exposure. $98,410. He didn't interrupt, just nodded, occasionally making a note in the margin. And the accounts, he asked. Joint access, I said. Authorized user status on 2 cards. Automatic transfers linked to my checking. And consent, he asked. I said help, I replied. I never said take. He leaned back in his chair. They're not stupid, he said. They're counting on you being tired. That landed harder than any insult Daniel had thrown. We spent 3 hours unwinding what had taken 18 months to tangle. First, revoke all authorizations. Second, freeze discretionary transfers. Third, document everything. Paper is patient, Martin said. People aren't. By the time I left, my hands smelled faintly of ink and sanitizer. It felt like progress. At home, the atmosphere had shifted from cold to theatrical. Daniel was on the phone when I walked in, pacing. No, it's not resolved, he snapped. Yes, we're handling it. He stopped when he saw me. Didn't hang up. Just stared, daring me to exist. Claire was at the table, laptop open, scrolling fast. We need to talk, she said, without looking up. No, I replied. We need to document. That night, I slept with my door locked again. I woke at 3:14 at m.to the sound of my printer. They were in my study. I stood in the hallway listening. Pages sliding out. A drawer opening. Whispered frustration. She moved the files. Daniel hissed. I didn't, Claire whispered back. He must have. I stepped forward. Turned on the light. They froze. What are you doing? Claire asked, breathless. Inventory, I said. Of what's mine? Daniel straightened. This is paranoid, he said. You're spiraling. No, I said. I'm indexing. I took the stack of papers from a printer. bank statements, retirement summaries, copies of my will. They had been looking for leverage. You went through my things, I said. Claire crossed her arms. We're trying to protect ourselves. From me. That was the moment something inside me cooled permanently. The next morning, I went to the bank again. Different teller. Older. She didn't speak slowly. I want new accounts, I said. New numbers. No linked access. She nodded. Efficient. Respectful. By noon it was done. At 2:40 p.m., my phone exploded. Claire first. What did you do? She demanded. Daniel second. Our cards don't work. Claire again. Dad, this isn't funny. I didn't answer. At 3:15, I received a notification. Unauthorized access attempt blocked. At 3:17, another. By dinner, they were pacing like trapped animals. Daniel knocked on my door. Hard. Open up, he said. We need to fix this. Fix what? I asked through the door. You're cutting us off, he said. You can't just. I can, I replied. And I have. Claire's voice cracked. Dad, please. We're scared. I opened the door then. Just a little. Good, I said. Fear improves focus. Her face twisted. You're enjoying this, she accused. No, I said. I'm surviving it. The next day, a certified letter arrived. From Martin. Addressed to both of them. Notice of termination of financial support. Demand for accounting. Timeline for vacating the property. 60 days. Daniel laughed when he read it. Actually laughed. You're bluffing, he said. You won't evict your own daughter. I looked at him. You already tried to institutionalize me, I said. We're past pretending this is love. That night, Eric Monroe called. Mr. Hale, he said smoothly. This is getting messy. Only for people who built on other people's money, I replied. A pause. We can make this easier, he offered. Buy you out. Quietly. I smiled to myself. You already tried, I said. You just didn't realize I was still holding the pen. I hung up. In the quiet that followed, I poured myself a cup of drip coffee. Plain, bitter, familiar. Margaret would have approved. And for the first time since she died, I felt like I was no longer apologizing for being alive. The sheriff came on a Wednesday, not in uniform, plain jacket, clipboard, polite eyes that had seen enough family wars to stop asking who was right. I was in the living room replacing the batteries in the smoke detector when the doorbell rang. Noon exactly. I remember because the clock Margaret bought for our 15th anniversary chimed just as I stood up. Mr. Hale, he asked when I opened the door. Yes, I'm Deputy Collins. Just here to verify occupancy. Behind me, I heard Claire's sharp intake of breath. Daniel appeared a second later, already angry. What is this? He demanded. What's going on? The deputy glanced at his clipboard. Notice of termination of residency, he said evenly. 60-day timeline. We're required to confirm delivery and current occupants. Claire stepped forward, face flushed. This is our home, she said. He's confused. The deputy looked at me, not unkindly. Sir, I'm not confused, I said. I'm documented. I handed him a copy of the deed. Fresh. Certified. He nodded satisfied. Thank you. That's all I need. When the door closed, the house went very quiet. Then Daniel exploded. You call the cops on us? He shouted. I followed the law. I said, there's a difference. Claire's voice rose brittle. You're destroying this family. No, I replied. I'm exposing it. That afternoon Martin called. They filed complaint, he said, alleging elder abuse, financial coercion. I laughed. Once. Short. Let me guess. I said, they're the victims. Of course, he replied. But it won't stick. Your records are airtight. 3 days later, Adult Protective Services knocked. 2 women. Clipboards. Soft voices sharpened by procedure. They asked questions. I answered with dates. They asked about finances. I handed them binders. They asked if I felt pressured. Yeah, as I said, by my own daughter. Claire cried during that interview, loudly. Daniel paced. The case was closed in 48 hours. Unfounded. That was when the real panic started. Daniel stopped sleeping. Claire stopped pretending. They argued constantly. About money. About me. About who had miscalculated first. On May 6th, Daniel tried one last tactic. He waited until Claire was out and cornered me in the garage. You don't understand how bad this gets, he said quietly. No anger now, just calculation. If we lose the house, our credit's ruined. Careers too. I wiped my hands on a rag. You built careers on borrowed ground, I said. That's unstable by definition. You can still fix this, he said. Just reinstate the transfers. Well, be careful. I looked at him. Really looked. Daniel, I said. You treated my life like a line of credit. He swallowed. On May 12th, the lawsuit arrived, filed by Claire, claiming financial dependency, implied incompetence, request for conservatorship. Martin called me immediately. She's desperate, he said, and reckless. The hearing was set for June 2nd. Courtroom B.9:00 a.m. I wore my good suit, navy, the one Margaret liked. Claire sat across from me, wouldn't meet my eyes. Daniel sat behind her, jaw tight. The judge was a woman in her 50s. Sharp glasses, no patience for theatrics. Mr. Hale, she said, do you understand why we're here? Yes, I said. My daughter believes my money entitles her to my obedience. A murmur rippled. Claire's attorney objected. The judge waved him down. Let's see the evidence, she said. We did. Transfers, dates, emails, texts. Claire's messages, read aloud, sounded different in that room. You don't really need it. It's just sitting there. Be practical. When it was over, the judge leaned back. Petition denied, she said, with prejudice. Claire gasped, and the judge continued. I strongly suggest the petitioner seek independent housing. Immediately. The gavel fell. That sound stayed with me. Outside, Claire ran after me. Dad, she said, voice breaking. Please. I stopped. What? I asked. What do you want now? She searched my face. Maybe for the man who used to write checks without blinking. I didn't think you'd actually fight, she said. I nodded. That's the mistake, I said. He thought age meant surrender. They moved out 2 weeks later. No goodbye. No apology. Just boxes. Silence. The espresso machine gone at last. The house breathed again. On June 20th, I sold it. $1.24 million. Clean. Final. I bought a smaller place near the river. 1 bedroom. Big windows. No guest room. I donated $50,000 to the engineering scholarship Margaret always talked about. The rest I kept. Quietly. Carefully. Claire hasn't called since the hearing. Sometimes late at night I think about that. Then I remember the judge's voice. Calm, cert, and I sleep just fine. Because humiliation only works if you agree to carry it. And I finally put mine down. The river apartment smells like clean wood and morning. That was the first thing I noticed the day I moved in. No espresso. No perfume. No burnt toast from someone rushing to be important. Just light through wide windows and the soft sound of water moving past stone. I bought only what I needed. A table, 2 chairs, a proper bed, no guest room. That was deliberate. The realtor raised an eyebrow when I said it. No space for family? She asked lightly. I've hosted enough, I replied. She didn't push. My days are quieter now. Not empty, quieter. There's a difference that only becomes obvious when the noise finally stops. I wake up at 6:12 out of habit. The kettle still complains. I still listen. I read the paper in full, not just the headlines. I walk the river path every morning, exactly 1 mile out and 1 back. The doctor says my blood pressure has improved. He sounds surprised. Reduce stress, he says, tapping his pen. I don't tell him where the stress went. Once a week, I meet with the scholarship committee at the university. Margaret's name is on the plaque now. Bronze letters. Clean font. Permanent. The first recipient was a girl from a town smaller than mine. Top of her class. Parents worked 2 jobs each. She shook my hand with both of hers. Thank you for seeing me, she said. I almost corrected her. Thank you for seeing the work. But I just nodded. Claire sent 1 email in August. Short. Careful. Like a message sent through glass. I hope you're well. No apology. No ownership. Just a test balloon. I didn't reply. Daniel never wrote. Eric Monroe sent a LinkedIn request. I blocked him without opening it. In September, I ran into an old colleague from a city. We had lunch. Soup. Sandwiches. Nothing fancy. He asked about my daughter. I said, "We're not in business together anymore." He laughed, not realizing I wasn't joking. That night, sitting by the window, I thought about how strange it was that peace felt unfamiliar at first, like a language you studied long ago but never used. I missed Margaret more than usual that evening, not because of loneliness, because she would have appreciated the irony. She always said, "People show you who they are when they think you're dependent." She was right. I keep my finances simple now. One checking account, one savings. No joint access. No automatic generosity. When I give deliberately. When I don't explain. The world did not collapse because I stopped being useful. In fact, it got quieter. Sometimes, walking along the river, I see families. Adult children walking slightly ahead of their parents, phones out, conversations half finished. I don't judge. I just observe. I understand now that love without boundaries is just another kind of debt. And debt always comes due. On my 72nd birthday, I bought myself a watch. Nothing flashy. Steel. Clear face. Solid weight. The clerk asked if it was a gift. "Yes," I said, "from someone who finally learned his limits." At home, I set it carefully on the table. Tick, tick, tick. Time at last on my side. I don't know if Claire will ever understand what she lost. Not the money, not the house, the access. That quiet certainty that someone would always be there to catch her when she jumped without looking. That certainty is expensive, and I was done paying for it. The last time we spoke in court, the judge said something that stayed with me. "Mr. Hale," she said, gathering her papers, "you are not obligated to finance your own erasure." She said it like it was obvious. Maybe it is, once you survive it. I turn off the light at night without locking my door. Not because I'm careless. Because there's no one left inside who might try to take something from me while smiling. The river keeps moving. So do I. And if there's one thing age has finally taught me, it's this. Respect costs less than exploitation, but it's worth infinitely more.